because that's going to make me in a bad mood. So my answer would be Hi guys, welcome back to another video. If you're new to this channel, my name is koivumaa and I'm a Swedish watercolor artist. Today's video is going to be quite different. I'm not sure if you guys noticed, but I have a community page on my YouTube channel, and once a week I post a poll there with some questions, and the goal for these questions is to make you reflect a little bit about your own art. And today I'm gonna answer or give you my answers to those questions. So let's get started. So the first question is, how do you prefer your black in watercolor? And there are different alternatives here, and most of you guys that answered mix it with 2 different pigments. And for me, I think I most of the time use 3 pigments to mix my own blacks, but sometimes I use 2. And when I'm looking at this poll, only 10% of you guys use the black straight out of the tube. And this is something I do very seldomly. I feel like mixing my own blacks is the way to go. It feels like I have more of an option what kind of black I want to mix, and also it gives me more control. So I like mixing my own blacks. Okay, let's take a look at the next one. Why do you paint watercolor? It's interesting to see that 44% of you guys that have answered paint watercolor because it makes you relaxed, and that's something that is accurate for me as well. I get really relaxed from painting watercolors, but I don't think that would be the answer that I would answer. I think I would pick I enjoy learning new things, because I think that's the biggest upside with painting watercolors and doing art, is the joy of exploring and trying to learn new things. And it's also interesting to see that 26% of you guys that have answered this have the goal to be a professional artist. So keep up the good work, guys. I believe in you, you're gonna get there. So let's take a look at the next question. And the next one is, what is your biggest challenge when it comes to watercolor? And most of you, 30%, answered overworking my paintings. And this is something that I think every watercolor artist out there struggles with. It's extremely difficult to know when enough is enough and when you should stop and put your brushes down. And I think that's the alternative I would pick as well. So that's my pick for this question. I can also see that 26% of you guys that answered this question clicked on creating light and shadows as your biggest challenge. And I can see why you find that difficult, and it is very important to get light and shadows in your paintings, at least in the way that I paint. So those of you that struggle with this, keep working on it, because it's going to be all worth it when you get it to work. The next question is, which description fits you the best? And there are different alternatives here. I keep painting the same kind of painting over and over again. I spend a lot or too much time into figuring out what to paint. I feel my paintings were a lot better 30 minutes before I was done. I have a hard time getting started with my paintings. I have a hard time being proud of my own work. And most of you guys answered, I spend a lot or too much time into figuring out what to paint. 31% of you guys answered that. And this is something that I probably would have clicked as well. I spent a lot of time figuring out what motif I should go for and how I should go about what the plan should be. And I spent a lot of time doing that, thinking about what to do next. And I think it's still important that you do that, because if you have a pretty good plan, it makes the whole painting process more comfortable, and probably you will have a better result as well. The next question is, how much do you paint? And most of you, 40%, answered a few times a week. And for me, I would have to answer more than 4 hours a day. Since I do this professionally, I paint every day, 7 days a week, and I paint a lot. And I have to do it because this is my profession. Those of you that answered once a month, 15%, I hope you guys will start painting a little bit more on a regular basis, because that's going to make all the difference if you want to take your art to the next level. Practicing is important. The next question is, what is your favorite watercolor paper? And this was not a close race at all. 60% of you guys answered Arch watercolor paper, and that would be my answer as well. And my second option would probably be Sanders Waterford, and that was actually the one that got the second most votes, 19%. And I really like Arch watercolor paper for the simple reason that it's very durable, so I can be pretty rough with it and it still looks good. And also how the pigments work on the paper. So I don't think I would like to go without Arch watercolor paper. The next question is, which is your favorite blue? And most of you, 47%, answered ultramarine blue. And this is a wonderful blue pigment in my opinion. It's transparent, it's a warm blue, and this is the blue I use the most too, so this would be my answer as well. 6% of you answered manganese blue, and this would probably be my second choice, because when I don't use ultramarine blue, I use a lot of manganese blue. The next question is, which of these would you like to improve? And the options are creating exciting compositions, creating realistic perspectives, creating paintings with contrasts in value, creating paintings with less control, and using more effects in my paintings. And as you can see, it's a pretty even race here. And I think my answer would be create painting with less control. Perhaps a few of you that have been watching me for a while think that I don't use that much control, but it's always a constant struggle for me, because sometimes I use a little bit too much control. It feels like, at least after the painting is done, and then I kind of regret that I didn't go more wild and crazy and paint with less control. So I still feel like I could use a little bit less control in my paintings. So that would be my answer for that one. And the next one, it's a fun question, I think. Where do you paint? 39%, the most of you guys, answered on the dining table. And I did that for quite some time as well, but now I have the luxury of having my own studio, so that would be my answer. And 24% of you that answered this have your own studio too, that you paint in. And I pick that as your favorite option. And this one is very interesting, and the answers that you guys provided are quite surprising for me, actually. So the question is, when I paint, I listen to music, or I listen to podcasts, watch TV, prefer silence, and the last one was listening to nature. And most of you, 44%, answered prefer silence, and this was very surprising to me, because I never paint in silence. Either I have music on or I listen to podcasts, but I would prefer listening to music. A really good song in the background makes me come in the right mood for the painting. So listen to music would be my top pick for this one. And 8% of you answered watch TV. And I would never do that, because if something interesting is happening on the TV, that would take focus from my painting. But that was interesting to see that 8% of you guys watched TV. Okay, let's take a look at the next one. So in this question, I'm trying to figure out what you do when you have a painting failure, because I think that happens to all of us. For some of us more often, and for some of us every once in a while. But the question is, what do you do when that happens? And the alternatives are, I'm in a bad mood for a while, I lose motivation and stop painting for a while, I try to start a new project as soon as possible, I'll start over again and try to fix my mistakes, I convince myself to like the painting. And most of you guys answered, I'll start over again and try to fix my mistakes. And that would not be my answer. I would probably be in a bad mood for a little bit, or I get in a bad mood when I have a failure. And this kind of makes me want to start painting again. And most of the time I pick another motif and leave the other one behind for a while before I look at it and try to analyze and figure out how I can do it differently. So most of the time I change motif, but I don't want to quit my painting day with a bad result. So because that's going to make me in a bad mood. So my answer would be paint again, something else though. Next one is, how did your watercolor journey start? And I can see that 50% of you started your watercolor journey here on YouTube, and maybe some of you started after watching one of my videos, and that would be cool. The alternatives for this one is, I bought a watercolor book, I joined a course, YouTube, a friend convinced me to try it, I was born with a brush in my hand. And I would have to answer, I joined a course, because that's what happened. My mother-in-law signed me up for a course in Casper, Wyoming in 2007, I believe it was. And that was kind of the start for my watercolor journey. The next one is, what time of the day do you paint usually? And most of you, 34%, wrote or answered, I paint in the evenings. And 16%, which was the lowest percentage, answered in the mornings. And for me, I paint all day long pretty much. Maybe not as much in the evenings anymore, but while I was working full-time as a teacher, the only time I had to paint was in the evenings and the weekends too. So there's not a good alternative here for me to answer, but I would probably answer at night or in the evenings because that's what I did before. Okay, let's take a look at the last one for this video. I'm gonna do more videos like this because there's a lot of questions and a lot of polls in my community here on YouTube, and I'll do more of them in another video. But this is the last one. So the last question is, how many watercolors have you painted in your life? And I get a lot of questions on how you should improve and get to the next level and becoming a better painter in watercolor. And I think it's very important to gain and get as much experience as possible. And to get the experience, you have to paint a lot of paintings. So for me, I would answer more than 501 paintings. I believe I have painted thousands of watercolors. But the most common question, the most of you answered, was 0 to 50 paintings. That was 43% of you. But the more important answer is that 3% of you answered none. So that means that some of you guys that are watching my videos are not painting watercolors yourself, which is kind of surprising. Okay, so that's it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it and hopefully found it interesting listening to me answering my own questions. And if you haven't answered the questions yourself, the polls in my community, go in and do it, because you might learn a few things about your own art journey as well. And before I say bye-bye, I want to say, don't forget to click the like button. And if you are not subscribing, please do that as well. And if you want to learn more from me and my painting, join my Patreon, and you have all the links down below. Okay guys, bye-bye.